How many trips to the store to get it?
One.
What? Nobody's ever done a plumbing project with just one trip to the store.
The other, I did one that day. I did two fixes that day. One of them I did in one trip. The other one took two.
That's a total of 3 trips, which is the normal. Welcome, everybody, to the Fine Home Building Podcast, your weekly discussion of building, remodeling, and design topics aimed at anybody who cares deeply about the craft and science of working on houses. I'm Justin Fink. I'll be your host. I am joined by design editor Brian Pontalillo.
Good morning.
There
Justin.
we go. And Rob Yeagan.
Hello.
Editorial director. One of my dream is that one day I will say your name, and right after I finish saying it, you'll say, "Hey guys," you know, as if we haven't done this 90 times.
90, episode 90.
I think we're on 90.
Congrats.
Don't quote me.
Congrats,
it was like saying
everybody.
good morning to the teacher in school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't hear you. So here we are. Before we get started, let me give you a reminder to go to finehomebuilding.com/podcast, where you can find the show notes for every episode. You can see the links to all the things that we talk about. You can watch a video version of this show, and just generally join in the revelry there. Submit questions at fhbpodcast@taunton.com. Do you guys want any burning, pressing issues that you want to discuss? What are you working on lately? Are you going on any shoots, Brian?
You mean, yeah, no.
You get nothing scheduled?
No. I'm not doing much these days.
What about
Brian's going to take the winter off.
what about those kitchen cabinets?
I did some repairs in my bathroom last weekend.
Can we talk about the kitchen cabinets? Is that a topic that's okay to
No, we
talk
can
about?
talk about it. They're right about where we left them.
So do you remember when Brian took a week off to work on his kitchen cabinets, Rob? It was maybe about a year ago.
Oh, yeah.
And then we kind of, we were teasing him for a while about how he hadn't finished them on the week that he took off. But then I kind of, it just, whatever, got shuffled under the carpet. I forgot about it. And then I went down to the second building we have here in our little Taunton campus and to use the wood shop. And I walked through there and I'm like, are these Brian's cabinets? And they're just sitting there.
Pretty much done.
Pretty much
They
done.
made drawer fronts.
So what is the problem? What does your
Well,
kitchen look like right now?
It's missing a cabinet.
But there were several cabinets.
Well, yeah, but you wouldn't know that one of them was missing yet because there's nothing
But if they're
else. There's nothing that was there.
but if they're done, what's the game plan? Is it like me? It's just the last 5% thing.
Yeah, well, I had a deadline, and then the deadline, I got around the deadline.
Right, so
Little
then-
workaround.
Yeah.
And and then priorities changed.
What's the priority now?
Not the cabinets.
Anything but.
A little R&R.
Did you just say bathroom repair?
Yeah, I did some bathroom repairs last weekend.
What's broken?
Well, two things. I'll give you guys you guys can guess about what was going on in one
boy,
of
let's pay
in
attention
one of the
again.
situations.
He's
But
learning. He's telling us ahead of
I'm
time.
going to look right at him.
I'm going to try to pay attention.
I'll keep the description short.
Yeah.
My
No, you
shower would whistle.
What?
My shower would whistle.
Whistle.
We need a microphone
Yeah.
for Jeff. We need a separate camera that points to just Jeff laughing.
So you'd get in the shower, you'd be showering, and then all of a sudden this screeching whistle would come on. And it would whistle for about, 30 seconds to a minute, and then it would stop.
So the water
It would
pipe.
likely start whistling again at some point if you stayed in there for more than a few minutes.
Okay.
So it would make this whistle. And
Hot water. It's like a tea kettle.
that's the only hint I'm going to give you. What was causing the shower to whistle?
Any other symptoms you can have? So it was when you first turn it on, consistently when you first turn it on.
No, not consistently when you first turn it on. Nope.
Is it when the pressure is at the highest level?
Nope.
Is there any?
It was pretty random. It was pretty hard to peg to anything for a little while.
So it would come on for a few seconds, be screeching loud, and then it would just go away by itself.
Yep. And it would it would kind of
Give us the sound.
Don't do it.
Do
Don't
it.
do it.
Do it.
I'm not gonna do it. But
It can't be good.
Think long siren that kind of gets louder and higher
builds.
pitched, and then drops
off.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. What was it?
Was it minerals or some sort of deposit inside the shower head itself?
Yeah, I'm thinking something in the shower head.
No.
Because sometimes, especially after you work on soldering pipes around the shower, you'll get people will complain about, well, suddenly the flow of my shower head is shot. And usually it's because you have little stuff that got knocked loose in the pipes while you were working on them that gets caught by that little screened filter on the inside of your shower head. So if you unscrew it, rinse it out, and put it back. Same with your sinks and faucets and those kind of things. So that's a good thing to look for in general.
Yeah, wasn't
Is
that-
it air in the pipes?
Well,
Well, I mean, obviously there's air.
Yeah, somewhere.
Air is causing the whistle,
yes.
but
Well,
not
here's a
obviously,
hint.
but-
It was about with a trip to the store for something, a 3-minute fix.
The cartridge in your mixing valve.
That's where I was gonna. That was gonna be my second. If this didn't do it, that's where I was gonna go next.
but it was whistling from the shower head, right?
well, it was hard to tell where it was coming from, but it was only when the shower was being used, not when the
So the tub didn't do it.
not when that's a big hint right there.
Right.
Yeah, the tub didn't do it.
So it's above the diverter or in the diverter. O-ring.
Getting hot.
It's an O-ring.
All right, tell us what it is.
It was the diverter itself. It was the
Shot?
It was the tub filler
How is that a 3-minute fix?
because you unscrew it and screw a new one on. Have you ever replaced a tub filler? It's a stub out that comes out of the wall with a thread on the end, and you unscrew the
But that's
fixture.
that's a new insert into like the whole body of the. So you didn't replace the whole diverter. You just replaced the.
You talking about the cartridge
Yeah.
in the mixing valve?
Yeah.
No, the diverter that you lift up
oh.
to send the water up to the shower head.
Yeah.
That's the
What
tub
was
filler.
whistling?
Yeah, it must have not been sealed well, and it must have been sucking air in
What?
Interesting.
and would make this whistle. As soon as I went and bought a new $7, $8
How many trips to the store
tub
to
filler.
get it?
One.
What? Nobody's ever done a plumbing project with just one trip to the store.
The other I did one that day. I did two fixes that day. One
Okay.
of them I did in one trip. The other one took 2.
That's
And
a
the
total of 3 trips, which is the normal.
The other one was rebuilding the innards of my toilet, which
Oh, that's sexy.
of course is not a standard.
What was going on there?
it's
Was
not
the
s-
flapper kind of worn out, or
The what was going on there, Rob? One part had broken.
Got to
and-
exercise the gaskets, Brian.
and, yeah, and so it actually was the part that lifts up. My toilet does not have a flapper. It's got this whole sleeve that lifts up. This whole like tubular piece that lifts up.
What?
And yeah, and
is it an older toilet?
and it would hang up.
I think it's a
It's not
newer
an older
toilet.
It's a newer toilet. Yeah.
Toilet of the future.
And it wasn't fixable with one of the kits, the universal like repair
Yeah, yeah,
kits,
yeah.
which I've used before. I actually had to buy individual parts and fix what existed in the. I couldn't replace all the parts. I had to fix, a new valve and a new, I don't know, this tower, this thing that looks like the Eiffel Tower that this
Interesting.
this cylinder rides up.
What kind of
and down
toilet
on.
is it? American Standard or Kohler or something?
No, it's a Kohler.
It's
Yeah.
a French toilet. What was the symptom there? It was just running?
It wouldn't yeah, when you'd flush it, it wouldn't stop running, and then it would after it did fill. If it didn't do that, or if it did do that, but you fixed it after it did fill, you'd often hear it running later. So it did have a bad seal.
Okay.
It does have an O-ring, and that was one of the parts that needed to be replaced. But I really needed to buy the parts to make this whole thing work again. So that was a couple of trips to figure out.
Toilets, man.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? You know what? I have to replace my toilet. I'm just sort of avoiding it. I've been avoiding it for years. It's functional. Everything about the toilet itself is functional. It's that the bolts that attach it to the flange in the floor, one of the bolts, so you have those 2 bolts that come up out of the closet flange, and then you tighten those little wing nuts down with the caps on. So I think the toilet, I can't remember how this got started, but I think the toilet twisted a little bit, which it can do. You can kind of
Right.
pivot it about that closet flange to align it with the wall. And it had moved. So it's like, one of the bolts is loose. So I went to tighten the bolt down, and the head, it's like a T-nut. So it goes into a big slot, slides over, and then it's captured. So you can tighten it together. It must have moved or broken off, so it came out, and I couldn't
Get it back in.
I couldn't find the slot again with a new one. So
so
I
it rocks a little bit.
just put a screw down through it and tightened it to the floor.
I think it's good enough.
So it's been good enough for years, but I know that when the time comes to replace the toilet, I may be faced with a closet flange that needs to be replaced. And I know there's a dizzying amount of options in closet flanges, especially for repairs. You have like extension rings to raise it up. If you add flooring to the bathroom, you have
Like offsets, right?
you have like if you have an old cast iron thing, you have the new ones. Not new, and they're not new product, but you have kind of couplings that have like a rubber gasket that you can slide down into the inside of those old cast iron pipes and then fasten them to the floor. So you don't need to make them like, usually it's like a glued connection for those kind of things, but this allows you to get around that. So I know that I'm going to have, this is going to be one of those things where pull the toilet, look at it and go, all right, what am I going to do here? What am I looking at? Then make a trip to the store. So I might as well buy the toilet at that trip, try to get it in one trip, and then use the next 2 trips to get the parts that I forgot, which is what you have to do with the toilet.
Yeah.
So that's coming up, but
You know what? You know what I was actually excited about during this toilet repair project was that they have.
can't wait to hear this.
That they have.
It's thrilling, actually.
They have. They have dual flush.
Amy, get in here.
Check this
Dual
out.
flush retrofit kits.
Oh, cool.
So you can retrofit your toilet to be dual flush.
Yeah.
And when I first went, I thought, okay, I'm just gonna buy this because this is a complete new system for inside my toilet. So whatever's going on is gonna be fine because it's all coming out and
That's
getting
my
thrown
method.
away.
That's my
you
method.
know, yeah. But then I went and realized that I just don't. I have this sort of non-standard toilet, and it wasn't gonna work in there. But it's really neat. You just it fits right in with your regular lever, and you pull up for 1 and you push down for 2.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Save that water.
Save that water. Do it this weekend, Rob.
How's the toilets in your house, Rob?
Good to very good.
Good. That's where you want it. That's where you want the toilet.
Yeah.
Can we talk about caulking around the bottom of the toilet? Yes or no?
Oh,
This is a hot button topic.
that is a hot button topic. It's
I
like
didn't know we were going to talk about toilets today.
I know.
I'm thrilled.
similar to
I'm glad I asked what you were doing, Brian.
It's a fascinating hot button topic, right? Because the
People
code is
get so
decisive
mad.
about it,
Well,
and some people completely disagree.
They're not decisive
How so?
because they don't specifically say you have to caulk. They say,
What do they say?
They say that plumbers are charged with. I wish I'd have to pull up the actual code because we've looked at this. Rob, can you pull up that? I think we did a Q&A or something with Lombardi. It's something around the fact that they say that you have to maintain a sealed connection between plumbing fixtures and the thing you're mounting them to provide. It's worded just vague enough that it's like, do I need this or not? The way that I'm interpreting it is, yes, you need it. The
Sounds
code is
like,
telling you
yes.
need it, but it doesn't say add sealant. I don't think it doesn't say that explicitly. The big argument for people who don't know is people make the argument, well, don't put any caulk around where your toilet meets the floor because if you have a leak at the bottom of your
not gonna
toilet,
know
you're
it.
never going to know about it and your whole floor will rot. And a plumber will be like, well, then install the toilet so it won't leak, first of all, and and then that's less of a problem. Also, you can leave a small little bit of an opening like in the back, maybe. That caulk does a good adhesive caulk will do an excellent job of helping to keep that toilet secure and prevent it from rocking to the point where it will be more likely to leak. So, did you find it, Rob?
Yeah, he says it's not only okay because the gentleman asking the question asked if it was okay to apply a bead of sealant in that area, and he said it's not only okay, but it's required by the International Plumbing Code and the International Residential Building Code.
And so, what is the phrasing in the code? Does it say there?
It does not.
Well, this is
He does have the language. He just said it's required, and he prefers to use Phenoseal
yes,
to caulk that
which
joint.
is like an adhesive caulk.
Yeah.
I have installed a number of toilets and have not found that to be a daunting task at all. Like
Installing toilets or caulking them?
installing toilets.
I
I find it to
what's
be
your method? Do you
pretty
put the wax ring on the toilet itself and drop it in, or do you put the wax ring on the floor and drop the toilet
the floor.
on it?
And
Interesting.
drop the toilet on it. That I always ask for help with that part. Another set of hands.
Admission of weakness.
Someone can look, make sure it's landing well, and
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe if I didn't caulk around the perimeter, I'd know that they were all leaking.
Right.
Yeah. Say they probably are all leaking.
He also mentions condensation around the bowl during hot, humid summer months that could kind of drip down and
Drips down,
get
goes
to the floor
underneath,
system and rot it out. Not only if you experience an overflow, how
So if you
disastrous that
do
can be.
caulk, you're going to rot it out. And if you don't caulk, you're going to rot it out.
Well, that's the thing too.
No,
is
if you do caulk, you're not going to get anything seeping into your floor system. Is what he's saying.
Unless your toilet's leaking and you don't know that it's leaking inside.
Oh, yeah,
what we were
I see what you're saying.
before.
I see what you're
So
saying.
now you can't do it or not do it. I love it.
but you're maintaining
Paradox.
but you're maintaining the boundary from the user and the potential for bacteria. Like you're
It's one of those
creating
things.
a
Like
barrier.
if you install it correctly, I think you could be assured that it's not leaking.
Well, you can be pretty confident.
90% confident.
I'm confident.
Brian's 100% confident because
Well,
he
cushion my
had
toilet
help, so he could
installs.
blame somebody else.
I think the best practice is to
It was
lift it.
Sam's fault.
The best practice to lift it every 60 to 90 days. Look under it to make sure it's dry. Check it with the moisture meter. Record that moisture content level.
Yeah, if there's any changes, then then you know you've got to.
Take photographic
action.
evidence from the set angles. Reinstall it. Recaulk it.
Yeah,
Write a blog post.
post it on social media.
There you go. Hashtag toilet maintenance.
Another reason why basements shouldn't be finished. So you can just go downstairs and look up and see whether you're.
What do you mean another reason? When did we talk about this?
I'm completely anti-finished basements.
Are you really?
Yeah,
Why?
you guys know that.
I didn't know
I
that.
didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's a revelation.
Can you talk to us about it? Let's make the show about Brian.
So why don't you like finished basements?
Fascinating.
Because I have rarely, if ever, heard success stories, and yet with finished basements, and yet I've heard disaster stories time and time again.
What are some of the disaster?
Flooding. It's always flooding. They're going to flood eventually, and everything that you did and all the money that you put into them is going to be wasted.
Interesting.
And it's a lot of work. A lot of work to clean up.
But were these?
I know it can be done right. I'm just
Yeah,
not.
well,
like-
that's what I'm asking. Like, was it just not done right?
I'm just not. I think we did that article with Steve a while ago where he like outlined the risk levels for your basement,
Right.
and I just kind of feel like you can do it, and it's you can capture some space to use well, but I just feel like it's even a low risk project is still a pretty high risk project compared to lots of other things you might do to your house.
You think that the risks are just too high, even in the best situations, and they outweigh, or the risks always outweigh the rewards.
Yeah, like I said, I've just I've been living as you guys have.
Doesn't your son live in the basement?
Yes.
Unfinished.
In New England for 40 years, and just over and over and over and over again, basement problems, finished basements getting destroyed, and it's just it's anecdotal, but it's pretty solid anecdotes. Number of anecdotes.
It's like Pondelillo data.
Yeah, my toilet's never going to leak, and you're doing your basements wrong.
Yeah.
I think it can be done. I mean, if you manage water, you reduce that risk. Steve also had a C Basic, and I guess we'll have Mike post that article on the show notes page. He also had some strategies to maybe anticipate some flooding. Like he held his drywall up off the floor he put oversized baseboard down, so that if there was some flooding, then you don't have to really deal
You're
with
just replacing baseboard.
Yeah. And like the flooring that you choose, make sure that's just easy to rip out and replace, and just be mindful of how you finish it, and maybe I don't know what other. We'll have to dig into that article. It was a little while ago. If there were some other strategies that he thought of, but those are the two major
Something
ones.
to put up on the show notes.
Yes, we got something from Mike. Yes,
Something for
You know
Mike.
what the article's
You know,
called? Risk-free finished basement
a
or
risk-free.
something?
Yeah, and he has like an assessment, how to assess your risk, and then how to proceed based upon that risk. So
Yes.
if you know that your basement gets wet, well, then here are things that you need to do in order before you start finishing that basement. Or if you've got a basement that never gets wet, then you could take this approach. Right. It's helpful. Yeah.
All right, but you don't like basements in general, right, Brian? Aren't you a slab guy?
well,
You're slabby?
I do like slabs.
So, question.
All right.
I think Brian's a slab guy. Right?
I'd probably build on a slab.
What would you do with the mechanicals?
What everyone else does with their mechanicals, you build on slabs.
Put it
This
in a
isn't like-
closet?
Put it in a closet?
it's not. Yeah, it's
Oh,
not.
you put it in the unconditioned attic?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what everybody does. Yeah, just to be clear, when you say what everyone else does, that's what everyone else
Yeah.
does. You guys want to do some questions?
Yeah.
What is this, the Brian show? Hey, fellas. Oh, Chris writes, hey, fellas, just wondering what you guys think about metal roofing. I'm from Fredonia. Am I saying that right? Fredonia, New York?
Looks like it.
It's about an hour south of Buffalo, down the 90. Oh, we're getting into street directions.
Nice. Dang
I
it
asked,
right.
I asked to see what so he's essentially in Canada. I asked to see what the pros and cons are to metal roofing because I'm on the fence about it. As far as looks go, I hate them, but I'm told they last a lifetime. I see them popping up in houses all around my area. I know they cost more than traditional roofing, but there's an Amish guy close by that actually produces the metal sheeting, and I've been directed his way by numerous people in my area. He's very cheap in comparison to many non-Amish metal roof material makers for obvious reasons. I'm not sure what those obvious reasons are, I
Right.
guess, but is there some things I should look out for, such as gauge thickness or paint or coating qualities?
What an interesting question.
Is the question, should he use the Amish guy? Or is it about,
Always use the
should I
Amish
use
guy.
metal roofing? Always use the Amish guy. That's,
Yeah.
that's the answer to that,
Move on.
I think the question's about metal roofing.
I guess.
Yeah.
So benefits to metal roofing, they last way longer than asphalt shingles. I totally disagree that they don't look nice. I think they look great, but I get that it's a personal preference.
Sure.
And in snow country, where you definitely live, Chris, they have the added advantage of snow sliding off of them like water off a duck's back. Oh, I got it, Rob.
All right, you got there. Now, why is that important, Justin?
That's important because then you have no chance of ice dams on your roof because it will
Correct.
land and it will slide off and it will block the entryway to your house, giving you further excuse to not have to go to work in the morning. But you do need to think about how much snow will be coming off the roof and where it will go when it slides off. It can be dangerous if
Got to
those
put
roofs
those
are high
guards up to
Yeah,
make it look even worse.
yeah.
Do you not like metal roofs?
No, I like it.
You do?
I mean,
The guards are how you keep the snow on a metal roof so that one of the best parts of a metal roof cannot
Right.
be realized.
You want to form that ice dam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't mind the way it looks, and you know what? Some houses it kind of really does stick out.
Yeah.
In other houses it seems to, and I think it has a lot to do with color and
Yep.
siding material that it's paired with. So other houses it seems to like really just kind of disappear, like a gray or silver colored metal roof on a white clapboard house. When I look at it, it kind of disappears.
Yep.
But a lot of these green colored metal roofs or the red ones, obviously they jump out at you and you really see them.
And you can also, there's a lot of different manufacturers of them, and the spacing of the little ribs in a standing seam roof, the height of them, the whether it's kind of like a corrugated look or there's so many variations that you really can't even say in general I don't like it. I guess you can, but it's not. I think there's less variation in asphalt shingles than there is in metal roofing in terms of options, at least like really noticeable options. Asphalt roofing, you pretty much choose the color, and there's some subtle things like the way the color's applied, like is it kind of shaded so that it fades to a dark, so it's
right.
like shadow lines and all that stuff. But essentially, it's you pick the color and then you put them on. You could also consider wood roofing if you want a long-lasting, durable option that looks very traditional.
Probably a similar price point, right? They're both fairly expensive.
Well, I think that metal roofing, I haven't priced it out, but we just did an article on it recently, and I know that snap lock metal roofing, which means that you can essentially install it yourself, or a roofer can install it who doesn't have a lot of standing seam specialized tools. It's still pretty expensive, but I assume it's got to be cheaper than standing seam.
Do you know like not the categories, but so there's standing seam, there's through fastened. Those are two different types, right?
Yeah.
Is through fastened typically less expensive?
Yeah. Because then you're just putting like screws with a little neoprene washer down through. And that's what I have on my shed. It's likely what I'm going to do on the lean-to off the back of my garage because it's low slope.
Yeah.
And so I want to help the snow get off of that. But it's it's still more expensive than asphalt, even that option.
Okay.
Not by a lot, but still more expensive.
Because we had a question about the longevity and durability of through fastened metal roofing compared to standing seam, and at least Martin Holliday, when he looked into it and responded to this question, he said that if detailed properly, that there's likely no difference in performance.
I'm surprised by that because you're putting holes through it with washers that are relying on a rubber gasket, neoprene gasket, whatever it is, and that's in direct exposure to the sun. So how could that possibly last as long as one where there's no exposed
visible,
fasteners?
But I think the way that the assembly is built up with like the purlins and like the underlayment beneath it, that's really going to protect the roof.
It can tolerate a little dripping leak after 50 years of
because
sunlight.
you've got so much airflow beneath that.
Right. It's not like it's not like a barn where you have rafters and purlins and then put metal roofing over it. You
Right.
still have some sheathing down,
Oh,
and the
yeah.
sheathing is weatherized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's a fair point. In terms of gauge thickness or paint or coating qualities, I admit I'm not even going to attempt to like offer an opinion here because I just don't know enough about it. I don't know. It seems like if you go down that route, you're getting into the land of like you need an undercoating on this car kind of thing. Like I think pick a brand that's reputable.
Yeah.
Pick a product that's not the cheapest. One way that I like to think about some of this stuff, and I heard this guy recently talking about mechanical equipment in this way. He said, I like to buy stuff off of the top shelf in terms of quality products. It can be the cheapest item on the top shelf, but I want the top shelf category. So I thought that was an interesting way to look at it, and I would aim for that. So because then you're kind of, even if it's a less expensive, lower tier product from a really reputable company, you still have the reputable company, and they're probably not going to make a really crappy product.
Yeah.
And you get the support of a really reputable company. So that's kind of how I would skin it.
So are you suggesting that he not go with this local Amish guy who may not have
That's true. I didn't even
the
I
full
forgot about
support
that.
of a reputable corporation behind him and a warranty, or I mean, maybe he's got a warranty.
Yeah, maybe the Amish guy's got a warranty. I don't know.
Okay.
I know that it has, if this type of thing matters to you, it has a pretty appealing life cycle. You can get metal roofing made with up to like 75, 80% recycled material, and it's completely recyclable when you're done with it.
Well, but that's so that's different than you can put it in a landfill and it will degrade. It's recyclable, meaning that you can bring it to a scrap metal place and they will process it, and
You can get it made
it's not
from
going to go back.
recycled
It's not
material.
ashes to ashes. Not for a long time.
Correct.
Cradle,
Like if you're
cradle to cradle.
what is that the term?
It's cradle to cradle.
Right.
Cradle
Ash
to
to
cradle
ashes,
meaning,
dust to dust.
like that. It's like a completely closed loop in terms of manufacturing and recycling. That there's no.
If you make a solid wood cabin and then you abandon that cabin, nature will overtake it and it will turn back into dust and reincorporate with the earth.
Correct.
Minus your glass, I guess. I don't know.
Correct.
I don't know how long that takes to break down, but metal roof panels, I imagine, are going to sit for a long time before they corrode and fall apart.
Well, yeah, but in this case, we're not talking about biodegradability. We're talking about reusability.
That's what I wanted to clarify. That's all I wanted to point out.
Reusability,
Was that's different than like, oh, but they're great in a landfill. It's like, no, you can sell them for
make
scrap
a new
metal.
product out of it.
Yeah, and they can reuse them, and you can get a little bit of cash money.
Correct.
Yeah, I like metal roofing. I don't know. I think it's kind of nice.
Yeah.
I do think it looks weird on certain houses, and I wonder if that's a function of the house not being designed with metal in mind. It's like if you retrofit metal, sometimes it looks like it just doesn't fit, and I don't know why that is. I get that feeling in Vermont sometimes with certain houses, and maybe it is a color or a style thing, but I don't know. It's a good option, Chris. You should do it. What the hell? Why do I have? Oh, we got second questions by a guy named Chris too, and somehow he's also in Buffalo, New York.
It's an hour south.
I think it's a different guy. Hey guys, I'm a new listener and only around episode 30 right now, but I listen daily and I like the discussion. I work in a custom cabinet shop an hour south of Buffalo, New York.
It's the same guy.
Wow, maybe it is the same guy. I don't think, whatever it is. My question is about the house my wife and I bought last year that I've started to remodel. I started the remodel upstairs as soon as we moved in, and it's still ongoing. So far, I gutted the bathroom to the studs and have one bedroom almost done. Done meaning gutted, insulated, and drywall up. But then I started your podcast and began to question everything I know or thought I knew. Yes.
Sorry about that.
That is the goal. With all the new information I've been getting, I've come to a point where I'd like to readjust my approach to insulating my walls. The previous owner had somebody put in what I can only guess is open cell spray foam. I was put in from the exterior of the home through little holes they drilled into the siding, sprayed in, and later sealed up with plugs. It's a pink-colored foam, very soft and light in texture, and the studs are 5 inches deep. When I first started my remodel, I removed the foam and replaced it with R13 fiberglass bats. I was always told not to compress the fiberglass. It needs to anyway, now I want to go back through and get more insulation into my walls by adding to my stud depth and getting more fiberglass in where I've already taken out the foam. But moving forward, should I continue to remove this loose-fitting foam and replace, or is there something else I can do? Is extending my stud depth and adding fiberglass insulation over the foam okay or a dumb idea? Thanks. So,
Loose fitting.
Brian's nauseous over the question.
it sounds to me, everything in this question, except for the fact that he said it's pink, points to me that he has urea formaldehyde foam, which is in the 70s, up until like the early 80s, this was like a hot thing, and they still use it in Europe now. They stopped it in the U.S. because of concerns about urea formaldehyde off-gassing after you put it in. People got all freaked out, and so they banned it. But it was like this guy says, there's usually holes in the siding. You fill up the cavities from the outside with a liquid, two-part liquid that reacts and it foams up. But it was notorious for degrading, and it was notorious for shrinking and pulling away from the studs and the framing. So those two things, the fact that he said it's like soft and lightweight and textured, that points to it. And the pulling away from the studs and framing definitely points to it. Except it's always, in my experience, everything I know about it has been a yellowish color.
Right.
So it's the only part that I'm like, I don't know.
Could it have been a more modern?
Sure, it's not yellow.
Could be colorblind.
It could also be a bad spray foam job, but they wouldn't have done that.
I mean, because there's still like those pour and fill products.
It could just be that it was not done well as a pour and fill.
Right.
But the pour and fill is not typically pink either. And isn't pour and fill typically closed cell for the expansion?
I don't know if pour foam is open or closed cell. I think it's probably open. I don't know. But the fact that it's lightweight tells me that it is an open cell foam of some kind. The closed cell foam, like you'd be able to wrap your knuckle on it and it's hard.
Yeah.
That's closed cell. And that's open cell feels cushy, like the inside of a piece of foam cushioning.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
But it almost doesn't matter what it is except for when it comes to remediation. And I searched high and low to kind of try to get some sense of what a company's doing when they're remediating urea formaldehyde foam insulation, and I really couldn't. I was surprised that I couldn't find a good answer. I went to OSHA. I went to short of calling up a contractor and saying, "Hey, I'm curious about this. What's your method?" I imagine it's probably pretty mild. Like I think a lot of it used to be done in the 80s when people freaked out about it, and I know that a lot of companies did it from the outside. They took the siding, the sheeting off and stripped it out because, I mean, that has a lot of benefits. One, it's not likely to then get into your air inside. You're kind of treating it from an outside perspective. But in terms of like, you could technically leave this. It's not going to hurt you. It's already off-gassed as much as it's going to off-gas. It's not bad for your air quality. I mean, that's what all the reports about UFFI foam, which is the acronym for it, that's what they say is the case. You don't need to worry about it. It's like just don't disturb it and you're fine. But I don't know about removing it. And obviously those gaps where it meets the framing are a problem.
Yeah.
Adding more
something to do
fiberglass in front of it is not going to help you because you still have air leaks.
So would you just
around it?
So if you gutted these rooms and you were faced with these these cavities that they're mostly filled with insulation, would you just?
Well, he said that he's already taken it out of a bunch of them. So
right.
So go back and wish you were wearing a mask for all of that, and maybe a Tyvek suit and well cordoned off. I would. At the minimum, treat it like it's lead.
Like lead paint.
Yeah, I mean, like coveralls, like a Tyvek suit, a good respirator, gloves.
Plastic off the areas.
Yeah, and don't mix that stuff in with your regular household activities. You know? Maybe slight negative pressure, like a fan blowing out the window so that it's drawing air from your house and then out through a window so that it's less chance of dust
migrating
breezing into your living space.
So are you suggesting that he just leave this in place?
No, I'm saying that he's already sort of taken some of it out. Clearly, that was his initial impression was I'm going to get this out.
Yeah.
And I have no problem with that. If you were going to leave it in place, I guess you could just fill the gaps that have been created around the edges with expandable spray foam, just a little spray foam gun.
Right.
And then I have no problem with furring out the studs and adding more insulation if you want,
Yeah.
or do the bond fig.
Yeah.
Or do the
you would
bond fig.
definitely do the bond fig. You're gonna fur out the studs.
Yeah.
I was tempted. I was up in my attic. I'm coming, like I say, often on this podcast, like, what I realized I need to do? Insulate my attic a little better. And then I never do it. And I just don't want to do the bond fig. I just don't want to cut the foam and fasten it to the underside of the root. And then I got to put more. It's just like,
Dude,
do I care enough? Or why don't I just put a freaking stud on the bottom of the rafter? Is thermal bridging that big of a deal? This is what goes on in my head. I'm like, is this real?
It's real. You can see it.
I want to see when you're done with yours if the ghosting through is eliminated.
Okay. It'll be eliminated.
Like, I need a before and after. I need a controlled experiment with and without bond fig. What are you searching for on your computer?
How thermal bridging works. That article, because I want to give you like that little data point on
Oh boy,
on whole wall R values, things like that. Because it's
buckle up, everybody.
it's a little. Oh, look at that. The bond fig just popped up.
It's trending on Google, I hear.
So yeah, well, I'm not going to do it now, but we can put it up on the show notes page to show you that through testing, and I think it was Oak Ridge National Laboratory, they tested whole wall R values to demonstrate, well, is thermal bridging a real thing that we've got to worry about?
Fine.
And it's like, yeah, congratulations, you have an R9 wall.
Right.
You think that you have an R19 wall,
Yeah,
but
you did all this work.
yeah,
I'll start this weekend.
it goes very quickly.
Now, because my walls, my rafters go all the way to the floor. It's
So?
like that means I got to get down on my knees. I got to get under the.
Yeah,
I got to get.
so do
down.
mine. It's no big deal.
I got to get a pair of those the Dickies coveralls. I feel like that would really improve my mood for this job. I feel like you could just roll around and get dirty and not care.
How are you fastening yours?
Just framing nails.
You're just nailing them.
Yeah, just nailing them. Yeah. So I've been.
And then you're nailing through the strapping.
Yeah, so
and
I rip.
into-
So I rip. So I've got the what do I do 1x3 strapping. I've ripped my. I ripped XBS, 1-inch foam on the table saw into strips, and then I just tack the strips to the strapping with like roofing nails. And you don't need very many, just to hold it in place as you position it up against the rafter or the stud or whatever it is, and then just fire framing nails through it.
You're
Why not
using,
just-
you're using the full thickness of the 1x3 strapping, so it's wider than the.
Yeah. So it creates a wider surface.
You have,
Yeah, and I've got like
okay.
I've got like these true. Well, they're not true 2x. They're 1 3/4.
but they're
So
They're
they're a little bit wider, but yeah, it's like
wider.
yeah.
Okay.
So why not just put the foam up to the rafter and then you taking your headphones off?
Yeah.
You're done.
I'm done with this.
Drop the mic.
So why not what?
Why not just put the rigid foam up to the underside of the rafters with roofing nails and then put the furring strip over it, or so attach the furring strip secondary with framing nails?
I guess you could.
Well, what led you to the assembly that you chose?
One less step.
One less step,
It's
and
the
I don't
same
have like
amount of steps,
It's just
You're
easy.
holding the
Like
you're
I
holding the whole thing up here and just nail it.
I
through it
literally
once.
have a stack of.
but you have to do a step to create the sandwich first.
It's kind of just like the workflow. It's like literally, I'm ripping. I have and I'm working on the floor. I'm not working
I'm
on a
not
table.
wrong about this, Brian.
I've got-
If you have, hold on a second, Rob.
Okay.
You
If you have a piece of foam and a furring strip,
Yeah.
those pieces have to come together
Yeah.
and be attached to a framing member.
Yep.
So there's a total of 2 steps there.
You're reaching down and grabbing the foam and putting up against the framing member and nailing it up.
Yes.
You're reaching down and grabbing the furring strip, lifting it up and nailing it in. I'm reaching down once, grabbing both of them, holding them up and nailing them through.
but there's still
Once.
yeah.
But now when you want to cut those to length, you're cutting a piece of foam and a furring strip.
Correct.
And you're using 2 different kinds of nailers. I guess if you're hand nailing with the roofing nails. It doesn't
mean,
make
you're-
any sense. You do it,
you're
you
still
do it
gonna
all
have
in
to-
place. That's the way to do it.
No, I don't think so. I literally sit there. I've got a stack of furring.
It's rubbing his head.
I've got a stack of furring strips and a stack of foam strips.
Yeah.
And I'm literally just making these 8-foot long units.
Yeah.
And then I go and I just install them and cut them once instead of like fitting foam and then fitting strapping.
We should do a video on this. I'll use my attic for the video.
Okay. Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, it's simple.
Will you buy the foam for me?
We
should
got a
get
couple
the-
sheets downstairs.
We should get the Oak Ridge Laboratory. to
Oak Ridge
check-
National Laboratory?
National Laboratory to test the bond fig wall.
they're going to go, yeah, we already did that like 1988.
Yeah.
Nobody listens to what we say.
Right. You builders think you have a better solution and
You guys
everything's
don't,
fine.
You guys don't believe in
Anything.
in our values, so
We believe in Bon Fig, though.
yeah,
What was his first name?
nobody knows.
No one.
Steve.
Steve. I wonder if
Steve
knows how much
Bonfiglioli.
we talk about him.
I
Hey,
don't
he's probably
think he
raking it
does.
in. He's probably,
Breaking
yeah.
it in.
He's trying to figure out how to
Yeah,
monetize.
he's trying, he's trying to figure out how to license this stuff and copyright
Yeah.
it, trademark it, whatever.
What part were we at before I took us off topic?
Oh, whether or not he should
Remove.
remove or just button this stuff up. I mean, seal this in place and then move on. But if you wanted to extend the depth of the cavity, Bonfig approach would be one way to do it. Otherwise, I mean, I guess you could. It depends how thick how deep he wants to go,
Yeah.
right? And I guess to your point, I mean, this brings up another question. I don't think I really have an answer for it. But if, let's say, he's already 50% through his project, is it going to make, how much of a difference is it going to make if he exceeds the performance in the other 50% and he bumps up the R value in like half the house or in only a couple
Right.
of rooms,
Yeah, I wouldn't go backwards.
I think, though, to Justin's point, though, his concern, he mentions compressing the fiberglass bats. His concern isn't compressing the fiberglass bats. It's the gaps that are left by this
Yeah.
poor foam installation. So
Yeah.
if he does leave it in place and he can take care of those, then fine, put your bats in, compress them a little bit, and
Yeah.
rock and roll.
Don't worry about
and
compressing them.
Okay. Tim writes. Do I want to do Tim's question? Let me see what it is. Oh, yeah. Hey, guys, love the podcast. I'm a residential landlord in the Seattle area who, after frustrations with the local contractors, decided to take on almost all the maintenance and renovation work on my homes myself. I stay fairly busy, and with a lot of help from fine home building, my skills are growing. However, after listening to you guys, I realized that I didn't truly understand how all the parts of a home work together because I've never actually built or planned a home from the ground up. So, partly inspired by your fearless host and handsome leader of the podcast, I added the
That's not
handsome
in my copy
Mr.
of the
Mr.
question.
Fink's garden shed video series. I decided a shed build at my own home would be a perfect way for me to start bridging my skills gap. I went a little nuts for a shed, used zip system on the walls, Advantech flooring, Hardy plank, and AZEK trim.
Dang.
All built mostly to code and, quote, best practices as well as I could, even though no inspections were necessary. But in the end, I feel like I've completed a Building 101 college course. And he did send us some pictures, and they're cool. He's asking for a critique, so we'll get to that in a minute. Do you have any recommendations for how guys like me who only work on parts of already constructed homes can learn from the building as a whole works together, short of building an actual house? Yep, read Fine Home Building. Question 2, do you guys have any project management or organization tips for large scope jobs? Nope. Okay, so let's go. I don't know. He said he said he struggled to juggle all the tools, supplies, and design elements of this build while also trying to focus on doing solid work. So it's he said he ended up having to slow down and focus on only one building element at a time in order to avoid making mistakes, which ended up feeling inefficient. I think the answer to that is just that comes with time. You just have to, because the more projects you do, you start to remember. You're like, I know 6 steps ahead that this is the tricky spot that I'm going to get into if I continue down the path I'm in. You can't force that. It just happens.
But it's also something I think we dig into in the future, maybe if we talk to John Houarhan or somebody about project management software and how they structure and keep things like that on track.
But they structure it based on their experience.
Oh, yeah,
of,
totally. But once those
I know
elements
where I
are
can push and
known,
where I can't. Yes.
Yeah.
You have to go through it, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't have pictures of the shed, Jeff? Jesus.
So no critique, but I'm sure it's
critique.
beautiful.
I've got 'em
Sounds
on-
like you can move in.
I've got them on my computer. You guys want to see?
Yeah, let's check it out.
Jeff really blew it. They'll be up on the website. But here's the finished exterior, complete with dog. And so it's got Hardy plank clapboard siding, and it looks like corrugated metal on a sliding door. This is the interior. That dog almost looks like Benson, doesn't it? The dog looks like my dog.
I think it is Benson.
So here we go. This is an in progress shot. And yeah, he even built some of our famous Girton A-frame scaffolding.
Oh, yeah.
A-frames,
Those things are badass. Everybody needs to build those.
Yep.
I don't have a huge lot of critique here. I'm a little confused about what's going on with the piers, which appear to be
Are those
PVC
pipes?
I don't know what I'm looking at. Did he? You know what? Those might be.
They're not. No,
Are
they're
you
not.
sure?
No, they can't be.
Look at the saddle on top of them.
Helical piles?
Yeah, look at the saddle on top. Hold on, let me get in here. Zoom in. Whoa, too far. Look at that. It's got a little saddle on it. I think he used helical piles.
Wow. That's
He really
aggressive.
went over the top.
That's aggressive.
Where did he say he was? Seattle?
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the shots he sent had like a little mini excavator in it, or like a little bobcat or something. My only complaint with this would be often what I've found with sheds is that you end up wanting to use 8 foot sheet goods on the sides, and then once you factor it, so it gives you 8 feet of panel to work with. Add in the floor system, which is going to be another 6, 8, 10, depending on the size of the shed. And then you've got the slope of the roof and the overhang coming down. And suddenly that 8 feet of vertical height is not enough for you to create a standard sized door without ducking under the eave. And it looks in this situation like got a little bit into the sticking area of a window that's tucked pretty high up under an eave, and a door that might be a little bit crunched. And that's not necessarily a problem. It's just sort of a common.
And there's just like I think a little, at least it's some proportion issues that I think we're seeing.
I feel like proportion-wise, the windows are a little off on this thing. And one thing
It's placement and size.
But also watch out for grills on windows. If you're getting into the territory in a divided light window or a simulated divided light window where those individual panes of glass are wider than they are tall, it starts to be weird. And it's not a rule you can't break. I mean, you can do it. It just isn't going to be as pleasing as if you went to maybe the next size, or you went to a different grill where the pattern was more vertical.
Yeah.
It always looks a little bit off. And I know because I have some in my house that I have put in, and I regret it. And now I see them everywhere.
I think, I mean, at this point, not that he's going to go remodel, but if he wanted to get into the process of remodeling.
Yep.
Well, I mean, so it's
remodel a shed.
So it's the size of that window, and if that window is over, I mean, it seems to be like a potting bench there, so it's not necessarily eating up too much wall space for storage. I would have considered increasing the size of that window because the size of the door is so huge.
Yep.
He could add some trim elements around that window to complement the door, and maybe that would tie it in.
Right now, he's got corner boards on the building, but he has hardy plank siding dying right into looks like a vinyl window.
Yeah, and the corner boards are a little bit thin.
I would have picked up that nice wood colored texture of the doors as the trim around the shed too.
Yeah,
I
and that would have tied
the
everything
doors
together.
a lot.
Yeah, the doors are
reminds me
pretty
of.
cool.
We have a garden gate story coming out soon that former fine woodworking editor and now freelancer for us, Asa Christiana. He's doing this nice garden gate out of cedar that has these ginkgo leaves carved into it, but the fence around it is that corrugated metal. Is it roofing or is it just corrugated metal panels?
I think it's
It's generally for roofing, but some people use it for siding.
Yeah, it looks awesome as a fence though, as a privacy fence, and that looks like what he did with these doors.
Yeah,
which is super cool. Not bad. And then my last thought is when you get inside, just be mindful of which windows need to have a load-bearing header over them and which can just be framed. Can't tell here if you have the photos cropped, so I can't tell what's going on with the roof. But you probably need collar ties in there to keep those roofs, unless it's a structural ridge. You need to have something to keep those roof rafters from spreading outward, pushing
the walls outward.
Yeah.
We can't see it, but giving him the benefit of the doubt here, because he has that header over the gable end window, it might be a structural ridge. Yeah. And he's got it looks like a
pretty beefy
a post coming right down on top, centered on that header.
Yep.
So he may actually have done that.
Yep.
Quite the shed.
Quite the shed.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah.
Sheds are a great way to kind of learn the process, make some mistakes. It's often very humbling.
Think about the layers, which is so...
Yeah.
Right.
Takes a while to start to get.
Did he flash that window?
And I don't think you went overkill. I mean, Advantech for a shed floor is awesome because you know it's never going to rot out.
Yeah.
And zip system is great because it means that there's less spiders in there and it's going to be weather tight pretty quick. And then the siding just be decoration. You don't have to worry about it.
It's not totally overkill.
I love building sheds. I think it's great. We got to do a shed project in the magazine again.
Timber
Timber
frame.
Oh, man.
Justin literally just looked off into the distance.
Well, yeah, I can't tell if I'm excited or terrified by that prospect. All right. Do we have any more questions? Let me see. I think I got. Did I rattle us through them, or do you want to do this last one? What do you guys think? Let's save the last one.
Let's save the last one.
All right, we're going to save it. So that's going to wrap us up for this week. We will get back to you guys next week. Don't forget that we have a fundraising event at the International Builder Show in Orlando, Florida. That's on January 10th, 2018. It's a Keep Craft Alive fundraising event. You can go to keepcraftalive.org, I'm guessing, to register, Rob, or do you have to go through our website?
No, you go to keepcraftalive.org.
Keepcraftalive.org.
The event section.
Event section. There's a registration button, and it's generously supported by our friends at Diamondback Tool Belts and Advantech/Zip System.
So, it's more of a kind of casual, festive atmosphere. There's going to be some cool door prizes, and some brands are donating product, and everybody who attends is going to get a pretty cool Calavera tool bag full of some stuff. There is a registration fee, but 100% of the profits go towards our Keep Craft Alive Skills USA scholarship.
Yeah.
So,
please help us pump some money into that for people who want to go to school and do this stuff.
Yeah.
It's a really good cause.
So,
and go ahead.
Yeah, it's a time to connect with the community, with some of the editors, but really it's about, we've got a goal of raising, and Fine Homebuilding is actually going to match dollar for dollar the registration until we hit a $10,000 goal for this night. And that's going to go into the fund, because this year we've got a $100,000 goal for the scholarship itself.
And if you can't make it to the event, you can still go to keepcraftalive.org. People write us all the time. Oh, I saw the T-shirts you guys have. Where can I get one? Can you send me one? We cannot send you one not because we're stingy, but because we really want to fill the coffers for this scholarship. So we're asking that people buy the T-shirts so that meager amount of money can help go to that total and help get these kids to go to trade schools and pursue their career in the trades and kind of help get everything turned around again. So keepcraftalive.org, please take the time to go over there and be sure to use the Keep Craft Alive hashtag on social media and help spread awareness for all that. We really appreciate it. Again, if you have any questions for us, fhbpodcast@taunton.com. And we mentioned a bunch of articles today, so hop over to finehomebuilding.com/podcast to check out all those show notes. We will be back next week, and look forward to sitting with you all again. In the meantime, keep craft alive and happy building.